Hi and welcome to my video about shapeshifting. I want to look into this topic and also explain later how you can use this fantastic technique for yourself, where and when to use it in your daily life, and how to access it. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I learned 4 different professions in my life. I was first of all trained as a classical theater actor, and I worked on stage for more than 12 years. I moved on from that profession, became a licensed massage therapist, and I was first introduced to the Hawaiian tempo massage, the tempo initiation ritual, the Lomi Lomi Nui, on the island of Hawaii. That's where I started my bodywork journey. From there, later on, over volunteering in Africa for many years, I stepped into nursing training with the goal to return to Africa as a nurse and doubled down on the medical, becoming a doctor of integrative medicine / a spiritual healer. And this is what I'm doing now. But integrating all of my 4 professions and creating the me, the self, a full bucket of skills and personality traits that I can now use to serve people. And what I found as, let's say, the common denominator in all of these 4 professions was the shape-shifting. So let me explain. Shape-shifting as an actor is almost obvious. Many people have the impression or the idea when you are a theater actor, you need to train yourself to pretend something really well. And this is not true at all. For me, actually, a good theater actor or even movie actor, it's all a bit different, but the art is the same, is to basically step aside and let the character play and come alive through you and live through these situations you're in. It is a wonderful profession, and many actors are, of course, approaching development of the character from outside, especially if you're working on a person that is still alive. You want to embody a person that is still there. And you would, of course, study their posture, their language, how they speak, how they hold themselves and everything. But sometimes when we watch these movies, we feel that the actor really caught the essence of the person. It almost feels like they're sharing the soul that is shining through. And in part, this is actually really what happens. A really good actor is able to step aside with his personality traits, and leave room in his vessel, his body, for that very essence to come in, to be transported. And this is also what makes this bliss state of an actor. They even measured actors playing horrible scenes, but while really being in character, when you step aside, all your ego and your personality stepping aside, and you let the spiritual essence of this deep human archetype that you represent shining through, you're actually in bliss, even though what's played out might be you're just stabbing your wife in the back. So this kind of shape-shifting is not just blissful within the brain, but it has a lot of power to experience the world and train your empathy. As I mentioned, I moved on into massage therapy. And as I was trained in Hawaii. Shapeshifting was mentioned as well. Well, mind you, it was a temple ritual that was conducted to initiate young people, and young people on Hawaii would sometimes be massaged for days, for hours, ongoing day, night, to create that trance state, similar to the trance state an actor is in, for them to allow to find their purpose, to find their way, to be initiated into adulthood, to choose their profession, to find their relationships, to find what they want to represent in life. So even while giving a massage and while giving this temple ritual, you yourself are going into some sort of trance state. Massages are, of course, very physical, and it can be tiring, of course. So I remember vividly my very first experience with shape shifting. There is, we would give a temple ritual, temple massage to a grown man. He was very tall, and we were working on these very tight muscles as well. And it was conducted by 3 massage therapists working on one person. And I hear the teacher saying, when you're getting tired, and these were long sessions, mind you, we were taking people into trance state, allowing them to go through an intense initiation, an intense healing experience. So the teacher advised us to call in the power of a bear and to shapeshift into the power of a bear. When you hear this with your analytic mind, you go like, oh my God, what is she talking about? I wouldn't want to be touched or be faced by a bear. But this is not what I mean. Stepping aside with your personality and maybe even your tiredness and inviting the essence of a very powerful animal can give you a lot of strength to continue your task. And I repeated this quite a few times in my life where I found myself needing to push through a physical task that was important, but found myself very tired. I would call in the essence and the strength and the powers of a tall animal and would feel grounded and pushed with a new set of energy. My third profession, the nursing training, becoming a licensed nurse, was a tiny bit different. So there you don't have so much the shape shifting to the spiritual realms, but nevertheless, when you come to the hospital or the nursing home in the morning, you change your clothes and you put your scrubs on. And from that very moment, you're stepping into being the nurse, guiding people. You have a certain way to communicate with people that is naturally more distanced while still empathetic, to be able to teach, to guide people. And you also represent the medical system. You represent an institution. So as a nurse, I can never ever remember a moment where I would have told a person, a patient, well, just listen to your intuition if you feel this is right to take that medication. No, of course not. You wouldn't do that. You're in that certain shape that you shifted in. You represent the medical system and you tell them at 10 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, you need to take this dosage of this medication, and you support just that. So while this doesn't look very spiritual compared to the other ones, it is still a form of shape shifting where you represent an institution and a medical system that also leads and guides and holds space for another person. And now, my fourth and final profession, I'm now a doctor of integrative medicine. So, concentrating and specializing in spiritual healing. And of course, it is very important to me when I work with a person seeking for help that I am able to step aside from my personality and leave the room to the other person to be filled with their essence, to recognize how can we balance what is going on. I love to remind people of their talents. I love to remind people of their archetypes because I do the shape shifting. I step aside in my personality and I let spirit, including the aura of the person who is sitting across of me, coming through me and guiding me to see where's the imbalance here. What happened to that person? I rarely speak about what I perceive because I don't want to re traumatize people, but I also perceive what is the next step out and what do I need to remind a person of. Of course, I also had it that people had a breakthrough moment, seeing their talents and realizing their archetypes, and they walk out the door and they just recreate their depression instead of going to live that. So spiritual healing is very much only a part. And the real healing is what happens in the daily life and how the person wants to incorporate what comes through. So, long story. Now, how is that important for you? I have over 20 years of training in this. I know that every person who wants to try this can get that little aroma of it. So next time when you find yourself, even when you're on a hike, you run out of energy, you drank, you ate, your body should be fine, but you feel tired. Why don't you try a little shape shifting? Why don't you invite yourself to step aside and allow the essence of, let's say, an animal to come and energize your body so that you can continue on your hike and safely make it home? Or if you have an office day that is very draining, why don't you try a little shape shift? Step aside and you just work and speak and fulfill the position of the organization you represent. It is way less draining, I promise you. You can also shapeshift when you work with your children or your partner. When there is a misunderstanding, you can step aside and ask your personality to step aside and invoke how it feels to be in the other person's position, and you will build up a greater understanding for them. I remember some 20 years ago, I read in a book about the initiation of a shaman that he would sit, lean on a tree, and observe a bird and ask the bird to step aside so that his soul can go in and experience what the bird is seeing. And this is a fantastic exercise to try. So, not just stepping aside in your personality and to ask for higher guidance or for more power to guide you, but you can also step into other animals or people's fields, to check how it feels to be them, what they're going through, how it feels, which thoughts are coming up while you are in this field. This needs to be done with respect and, of course, for a very short time to build up your empathy, to find your right reaction onto this person's situation. All right, I hope this was interesting. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate leaving a comment. Or if you had experiences, I'm always curious to hear what my listeners are saying. If you had any experience where you asked a force to come in and help you, please share it with me. I love to read your comments. If you like my channel, please subscribe. It really helps me a lot to keep this alive and keep going and improving and sharing. And I wish you much love and see you next time. Dr. Sarah.